Morning everybody, how are you today? Oh, what a wonderful day. And we're all ready to go, all fired up. I'm going to take a wee seat. I don't like to do too many things at once because then I can't think. I don't know if anybody else is like that, but I tend to not be able to think if I do too much at the same time. Anyway, okay, so day number 29. This is quite an interesting, this is challenging times for me. And I do have the tagline, sometimes in your darkest moments can have your brightest futures. And I'll elaborate on that, where my position was at this point in time. I was probably up to, morning Andrea, I was up to, morning, property number 29 at this point. And I actually took a jump and I bought 30 at the same time. Because I went round to see this property on the back of, I'll tell you why. Anyway, I'll tell you why, the background. I helped set up private sector leasing with the council. We formulated the plan with the Fife Landlords Association and worked out exactly how private sector leasing would work. And that meant that the council would rent private properties from private landlords in pressured status areas and housing areas which were, they couldn't get any houses. Morning Francis. They couldn't get any houses, so they needed them because they weren't able to build. So they rented them from us, and we then subsequently left them to get on with it, and they put their own tenants in it. The insurance was a bit different. It wasn't normal buy to let, it cost a wee bit more, but it was worth it because they took all the responsibility for the property and the deals that I had made with them. So these two properties actually, I went round to buy one property in Cooper, and went round and I actually took them with me because I thought, I've been here before, I've made deals with the council before, they've subsequently pulled out 6 months later, and I thought, I've wasted my time. So I thought, I'm going to bring them round this time. So I took them round to do the viewing with me on the spot when I was doing the viewing of the property. They said it was perfect, exactly what they wanted, exactly what they needed, they'll definitely take it. Subsequently the boy said, and he went away, Ken went away, and subsequently the guy was selling them said, oh, I've got upstairs for sale as well. Oh, I could get two at once. Ken, do you want another one? Absolutely. Fantastic. So I did a deal, bought the both of them, and then I subsequently gave them to the council and they had them for 12 years. And I got my rent paid regardless under private sector leasing. Private sector leasing doesn't exist anymore because the funding isn't in place anymore to do that. So they did hand me them back a couple of years ago, but it's easy. You know, I've had them rented ever since to a couple of professionals. One was a retiree from the university, and the other one is still a lecturer at the university in St Andrews. And they're good properties, I like them. A couple of lessons I learned, obviously private sector leasing was a great one, ready income coming in all the time. I've never had any voids on them. I never had any hassle with them. All I needed to do was make sure they're wind and watertight. That was my only responsibility. The council picked up everything else and then handed them back to be fully refurbished when they handed them back to me. Took a wee bit of negotiation to do that. But I remember going in to see the guy, the boy that did the viewing with me, and we were talking about Standard Life, and I used to work with Standard Life in George Street in Edinburgh, and he was saying, you know, I'd actually got a mis-selling thing on my endowment claim, and he said, and he talked about it to me, about his mis-selling PPI, it wasn't PPI, but it was mis-selling endowments. And I thought, well, I wouldn't qualify for that, but he says, you should put one in, and I did, and I got £4,500. as a compensation claim for this mis-selling and endowments. But you never know where the opportunity is going to come from. This guy, £4,500 just out of nowhere, just because this guy mentioned to me about this problem. Anyway, that's apart from that. This is where my head was at the time, and I'll explain this to you. And your darkest hour sometimes leads you to the brightest moments. I was at property number 2930. And I just quite couldn't comprehend how it was possible for me to have more than a full-time income that I had to now, and I was only working 1.5 days a week. Morning. Because I was working as a financial controller and running a company and spending all the hours God sent, and I just couldn't quite comprehend how that was possible for me to actually give that up. And it was my limited thinking. I just thought it's no for the likes of me. I just couldn't comprehend that, how it was possible for me to do that. But it made sense. I looked at the numbers and the numbers made sense and it all fell into place, but I just couldn't quite grasp the concept that yes, you can give up work. You don't need to work ever again. Really? Just passive income? and I could just go and do what I want to do when I want to do it? Absolutely. I just didn't get that. It was really difficult for me to get that through my head. So I probably, a couple of other properties passed. But at that point in time, I was working every hour God sent, and I was doing this all myself. So I was managing about 29 properties, and I was also working full time. And I was, you know how they say they burn the candle at both ends? Well, my candle was burnt completely. I was burning the candle in the middle. Mentally, it wasn't great. I wasn't in a fantastic place. I was just constantly going at it all the time. But I had a vision and I had a focus, and I knew where I wanted to be, and I knew if I kept going I would get there. I probably was there already, to be honest, but I just couldn't quite grasp it at that moment. And that's where I was, and that's where I think to myself, even in your darkest hours, it will lead you to your brightest future. And I'll talk about that more tomorrow. And I'll see you later. Bye.